we're going to talk about first tonight is emotional clearing with essential oils. And it's a personal favorite topic of mine because when I first started with the oils, my life was kind of in a turmoil. I had a daughter that at the age of 13 was diagnosed bipolar and was hospitalized. And if you've ever dealt with a family member that has a health issue like that, it's very, very challenging. And I had been in private practice as a master herbalist, and I also taught meditation, and both of which I'd been able to use prior to that to assist people in taking care of their own life and getting off medication. And I had a very odd teenager, you know, the kind that doesn't listen to their mom. I'm sure you've never heard of that before. And so this was the stage that I was in. I was in, like I said, private practice as an herbalist, working with these advanced cancer patients. I was teaching a technique called Silva Mind Control, or Silva Method of Human Development. So I had a couple of hats on my head. And then my daughter got sick, and pretty much my life was just turned upside down. And it was in this time frame that someone said, you know, there's a company called Young Living, and we'd like to bring someone in to teach about essential oils. Would you contribute so we can bring this woman over? Because she lived in 2 states over, and so we needed to provide her transportation. And I was not overly thrilled because, quite frankly, I'd looked at essential oils before. I'd gone to the health food store. I'd gone actually even to order oils directly from France for a company called La Herbière, which, of course, in your neck of the woods probably would be called La Herbière, but it was, I wasn't impressed. I bought a 10 mil lavender, which quite frankly was more expensive than our 15 mil lavender. And it just didn't do what I believed it had potential to do. And so this woman who asked me to come to this class and basically contribute so we could bring in the teacher, she said, what probably would get any parent, maybe there's something that could help your daughter. Okay, guilt. Thank you so much. So sure enough, I contributed $35 to bring this woman in. And then they asked, the hospital asked to be prepared that they were going to send my daughter home for a particular day for a few hours. Guess what day? It was the day of the class. I had a choice. I could bring her with. I certainly couldn't leave her at home. We might have one less sibling or one less pet because they had hospitalized her homicidal at 13. So it was really traumatic. And then she had her 14th birthday in the mental hospital. And so it was a little rough time for me. And I thought, well, if nothing else, I'll bring her with. If she's quiet, fine. And if she's not, well, we'll just pack up and go home. It's better than not trying. So we went. She was quiet. She sat in the corner with the shirt over her head, but she was quiet. So that was good. And afterwards, we went up and smelled some of the oils. I do not use the kind of language she used to describe the oils. Suffice it to say, she didn't like anything. And then she smelled the oil of joy, and she said, that's not too bad. Well, joy is a very interesting oil. In fact, we're going to pass it around now. Joy, it helps with self-love. And my daughter got this affinity to joy. We actually were able to, let me talk. Okay, you're going to have to mute them, these people. You guys, we're going to have to mute you.
I'm looking for them to mute.
Anyway, so she became really attracted to the oil of joy. And within 2 weeks after we received our oils, they were able to release her from the hospital. Now, I know it was a total coincidence, but to get well, you have to love yourself. You have to want to get well. So I'm going to start joy in the front, and I'll keep passing it around. Now, personally, I like joy over the heart because it seems to have an affinity of the spiritual, emotional heart. And it also has some really cool oils in there that have kind of some of the same chemistry that has an affinity to heart. So it's a very nice oil. And she started using that. And today, this girl is now a massage therapist. She is the mother of 2 of my grandchildren. one of which is 13 and one of which is 10. The 13-year-old, by the way, is the ultimate computer nerd, the geek plus, you know, and then the 10-year-old is the ultimate jock. And between them, they make this cool little family. And my daughter's business is called Ray of Light Aromatherapy Massage. Now, she hated her name growing up. And of course, today it's the perfect name for what she does. So that was my first experience with the oils. I wanted to tell the world because I saw such a huge change emotionally in my daughter. Now, when I met Gary the first time, and I'm sorry, I got oils in my hands and I got an itchy eye, so I'm going to be very careful. Yes, we do want to be careful not to get oils in your eye. Although I've had people put oils in the eye that actually had improvements of things, so it's just not the best way to do it. I like to tell people there's no real wrong way or wrong oil, wrong application. There's better oils and better applications. Well, he just wants to join the fun.
He wants some joy.
Exactly. I'll tell you a story about a dog I worked on in a little while. But anyway, so she has this massage practice and does very, very well. And when the kids were itty bitty and I was babysitting these little babies, and if they got restless, all I had to do is put Joy on because the mom smelled like Joy, because that was the oil. And to this day, she still carries it everywhere and uses it regularly. So I met Gary the day after my birthday in 1993. I'm born December 2nd, so it was December 3rd I met him. He had just come back from Egypt, where he had had a couple of events that happened that made him realize how powerful the oils were for emotional work. It just so happens that in ancient times, they did a technique called the cleansing of the flesh and the blood. It was a technique that was designed to clear the physical body of emotional trauma. Now, some of the stuff that he'd heard was that it took 3 days, and it was basically a very sacred process. And so he'd heard about this, and he was looking for some of this evidence when he wandered around Egypt. And this was a time frame long before Young Living was much of anything. We were a very teeny tiny group. And he had invited Valerie Warwood, who had written a variety of essential oil books, to come with him to Egypt so that she could basically interface with some of the different places that she had connections. And one of which, they were in the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. So they both had put essential oils all over them. Are you going to come help? There you go. Said, no, she has too much oils on them. Yeah, that's too much. And so they put a bunch of oils on them, and then they had a spontaneous clearing. They spent the night in the King's Chamber. Now, Gary explained that he believed that an angel appeared to him. It was a really dramatic, fabulous experience of himself. And he believed that he was cleared from all kinds of negative trauma. Don't know for sure or not, he felt like it was. The interesting thing was it seemed to affect and clear from other members of his family too. I want you, for the sake of these types of stories or information, I want you to look at your DNA, not as something static, but more like a radio receiver, you know, so you can tune it into different stations. So if you release a station from the air because it no longer serves you, anyone else that might have been tuning into that negative station also has that release as well. And afterwards, he happened to be talking to his mother the next day, and she said, Gary, your grandmother called yesterday. And he goes, yeah, that's pretty cool. But he couldn't quite understand it because, see, Grandma never liked Gary. Gary was like a rebel, as we have to be sometimes when we're breaking new ground in the world. And he was a rebel. And Grandma never liked that. But Grandma called up his mom and said, where's Gary? And she said, Gary is in Egypt. She said, well, when you talk to him, will you please tell him I love him and I'm thinking about him? This woman had never said I love you to Gary ever. and a son that had been doing drugs quit. Those were two of, Gary estimates there was like 14 people in his family that had spontaneous emotional clearings at the exact same time he did. So he was very impressed with that. And then he went on kind of a hunt around Egypt to see if he could find out more. You see, there's many, many historic sites in Egypt. All are related to death except one. One is related to life, and that's the temple of Isis on the island of Philae. And so that was one that he went to because he had heard that they also had done basically training in essential oils in that time frame early on at the temple of Isis in Philae. So he goes there, and he can't afford somebody to take him, a guide to take him around. So he's typical Gary and kind of sneaks behind any English-speaking group. And he was behind one of these English-speaking groups while he was hearing about that particular temple. And this little guy comes up to him and beckons to him to follow him. Now, if you've ever been in Egypt, Egypt doesn't necessarily feel really safe sometimes. And Gary was definitely nervous about following this little guy, even though he was really short, real little guy. But he kept beckoning to Gary. And after about 3 times, Gary decided, I'll just go. I'll just go. There's some reason. There's something to see. And he brought him to these stairs that went up on the roof. And they opened up this gate and opened up unlocked the gate, the big lock that was on the outside. They went up the stairs, and on the roof took him over to this room. And as soon as Gary saw the doorway of the room, he realized that this was the room they had done the cleansing of the flesh and blood in. Because on the back wall, you can just set it on top of the books. That's perfect. When they had set it, the pictographs on the back wall showed a table with 2 people, one on each end, applying essential oils to the person laying on the table. And then the second pictograph showed the same person lying on the table with these arrows of emotion coming off the body. And he was very impressed by it. And in fact, if you pick up his first book, which is Aromatherapy, The Essential Beginning, he has photographs of the back wall of this room. So because of this, he became extremely interested in the emotional clearing work and created a series of blends for us, many of which are in the kit called Feelings. He created also 3 wise men and a few other things. And so he had some oils, and his interest was the emotional clearing work. And I'm going to give you a series of oils that I personally use more often when I'm either assisting somebody or doing my own clearing. And you can write these down. I like using 3 wise men on the crown and third eye. By the way, I always use white angelica. I use white angelica on me. I use white angelica on the person I'm working with. White angelica is an amazing thing that you can actually test. If you run white angelica through somebody's energy field, their actual aura is thickened and broadened. And we can show that through Kirlian photography. So you don't even have to take my word for it. You can actually see photographs with proof of that. So white angelica, and if I'm facilitating, I always put the same oils in me as being put on the person I'm working with. So we now have white angelica, 3 wise men on the crown and third eye. And you can always put a little on, there's an energy center a few inches above our head. And you can have your oils on your fingertips and do that one as well. And when I say energy center or chakras, it's all the same thing. They're basically the hormonal centers of your body. And they are directly connected to certain emotions. So there's nothing mysterious about them. The Eastern religions recognize them first and call them chakras. But they're your physical hormonal centers, and that's one reason why if you have a particular event that has a very strong emotion, it sometimes starts the path to an illness or some other problems because that energy gets blocked. quick little aside, imagine the little boy that had a very negative experience on the playground. And the next morning wakes up, Mommy, my tummy. Oh, my stomach hurts. Does he have anything physically wrong with his stomach? No, but there's he's created like a blockage of energy because he's so worried and tied up about it. So we have 3 wise men on the crown, third eye. There's an oil blend called Harmony. Harmony has 11 different oils in it. And Gary found oils that help balance all the different hormonal systems, all the different energy centers. So Harmony is a blend that you can put on each and every chakra. So I might put it on my hands and wave it through this part, put some on the crown and third eye and throat. And if I'm working with someone else at this point, I'm definitely going to put it in their hand. I'm going to suggest to them that they do like a clockwise rotation on their hand. And I always put it on the less strong hand. So if I'm right-handed, it's going to be on the left hand. And I do 3 times on that. And then I tell them, just run it down the front of your body. You don't have to know exactly where it is. One of the things with the emotional oils, you don't need much. It's all about the sense of smell. It's all about the energetics of the oils. Slowly run it down the front. If I'm facilitating someone, then I'm going to, each time when it's time for the next oil, for example, that right before Harmony and right before the one after that, I'm going to let them let me know when they're ready for the next oil. And they'll let me know by putting their hand out. In this case, less strong hand. And the next oil after Harmony is Joy over the heart. And then they'll put their hand out again, and the next oil is Forgiveness, and Forgiveness goes on the navel. Now, there's other oils you can use in emotional clearing, but those are the basics. Sometimes we'll start by putting Release over the liver. Release is a very cool oil. When my daughter came home from the hospital, I tried Release with her. Mount Vesuvius. Oh, tell me about it. It's like, it just released way too much too fast. Yet Acceptance, she could handle just fine. I have heard stories from people in my classes of the timid person that's been walked all over in a relationship or at work, and they start using Release and have a phenomenal blow up at work or in the relationship, and then all of a sudden the energy's balanced and everything's better. You know, the oils help us be all we can be. So those are the base oils. I've already put them on me as well. Usually right around the time after we've put, and I'm sorry, I forgot Valor on the feet. Probably because you didn't have Valor for a while, but it is back in stock. So you can get Valor now. Valor is a very cool oil. It helps balance the electrical system of the body. And when I'm holding the Valor on the feet, I will often have them repeat at that point, or maybe a little bit later, an affirmation that I'm going to give you. And rather than take the time that for you to write it all down now, when we're going to do an exercise, by the way. You will, Alan's going to have that on Facebook, email, or are you going to have the script?
Well, if I'm get it, yeah, it'll be on one of those.
Okay. We'll make sure you have this. Yeah, the script. And the script I like to use has been adapted from some of the scripts in Carolyn Mace's book called Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die. And the theory behind it is that we have basically store our trauma in the cells in our body. And it kind of locks it in. And with support, it allows us to let these go and clear things from a deeper level. So the script that I use, and again, we will make sure you have the exact script, so if you don't get it all right away, you're fine. I lovingly and willingly release all things that no longer serve me in a positive and progressive manner. I release these things to the universe from whence they came to be a progressive, positive and progressive power for me and others now. So that's the one we'll use today. If you're more comfortable using a different term other than universe, I use a very generic term because we have people of all backgrounds in the classes, and so we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable. But you're more than welcome to pick a whatever your higher source is, and that's who we're letting it go to, and knowing that that will convert things. You had a question?
I can ask you later. So it was just with the Valor.
Oh.
When we ran out, what would you personally replace that with?
Personally, if I ran out of Valor, I would replace it with like Sacred Mountain or Idaho balsam fir or any of the evergreens. Valor includes the combination of frankincense and spruce. And we had 2 issues with Valor, just as a little background. We had no black spruce, and because the landscapers were buying up all the black spruce for the decorative work, and Gary couldn't pay the price that they wanted, that they were getting from the landscapers to distill it to oil without raising the price significantly, and he wasn't willing to do that. And then the other reason is we got a huge shipment of blue tansy in, and it wasn't up to our standards, and so we refused it. We will never sell an oil that's not up to our standards, period. You know, we use these oils in our clinic in Ecuador. We use these in a variety of different ways. We have to be absolutely certain they are the highest quality, period. And when you're doing emotional work, he's even talked about if there's chemical involved there, the potential is that it could lock in a negative emotion rather than letting go of the negative and bringing in the positive. So he's very, very, very particular on that. I'm going to pass around a couple of oils, one of which you can put a drop or 2 on your feet, and then also 3 wise men, and you're going to put a drop, if you desire, on your crown and your third eye. And we will have a little meditation. And while we're passing those around, I'll share a couple of stories of some of my experiences so that you kind of know why I am so strongly connected to believing that these are hugely important. So, 3 wise men. I'm going to start 3 wise men on one side, Sacred Mountain on the other. Sacred Mountain's the one that goes on your feet. 3 wise men on the crown. Mm-hmm. Now, other oils you could use on the crown and third eye would be like humility. I love humility. It's one of my all-time favorites. That has rose and frankincense as 2 of the oils in it. You can use frankincense. You can use sacred frankincense. There's just a variety that you can use as soon as you kind of understand a little more of the chemistry. And if it appeals to you, that may be a perfect one. What's really interesting about the oils, if you love them or hate them, you need it. So if you absolutely hate the smell of something, you need it. But you don't have to smell it. You can put it on a cotton ball in your shoe, and you will absorb the energy, and it will work very, very well. I'm going to share you a story from Hong Kong. Well, I have a really good friend. I met her in Hong Kong. Turns out that she is a citizen from Costa Rica and a joint citizenship in France. She was the wine connoisseur for Cathay Pacific and lived in Hong Kong for 10 years. Very eclectic girl. In fact, she ended up being my personal assistant for 3 years and lived in the States with me. Well, not with me. She was with her boyfriend, but worked for me. And Sandra was at one of my classes in Hong Kong, and we just really hit it off. And I said, well, what are you doing tomorrow? And she said, well, I'm going to work. I work at Healing Plants, and we're going to be doing I'm going to do some emotional clearing work. She used guided meditation to do that. And I said, wow, that's so cool. Can I come, and just hang out? She said, sure. Ended up going over there, and she asked the person that she was working with if it was okay with them if I came in as well. And I brought in my oils, and within moments we were doing emotional clearing work with the oils. Anybody that's interested in astrology, Sandra and I have 14 exact trines in our chart. That just means that we never had to talk. The energies flowed back and forth. It was instantaneous. She never had to ask for something. I knew what she wanted. It was one of the most interesting experiences. She's still a dear, dear friend. And we show up same place at the same time. Like one last year, her boyfriend has a house in Park City, Utah. The company is in Utah, a couple hours or about an hour down the road. And she called me for my birthday. And she said, where are you? And I said, well, I'm actually just walking into Young Living right now. And she starts laughing. And she says, I have an appointment there at 10 o'clock. And it was like, 9:45. But that's our relationship. We just show up at the same places. We hadn't talked before. We didn't know anything about that. But anyway, so we're in there, and we start doing this work together, and we end up doing this work together for a period of time. And one of the times we had a woman come in with a severe skin condition. She was a nurse, so she had to wash her hands a lot, which didn't make the skin condition better. It made it a heck of a lot worse. And she was one that really wanted help with it. They tried all kinds of medications. She'd eliminated certain things from her diet. She'd had it for 9 years. Literally had tried everything and came to healing plants just to see if there was something else that she could do. And Sandra happens to have an actual PhD in kinesiology or muscle testing. So Sandra tested her, and it turns out what came up was the cause was emotional. We asked her a bunch of questions with the translator because she only spoke Cantonese. And the woman said, no, she couldn't think of any emotional thing that would have caused the skin condition. Okay, fine. But because it had come up emotional, we worked with the emotional oils. I will also tell you that when I work with somebody that speaks a different language than myself and that we can't communicate with words, I want to make sure that they're not uncomfortable. I mean, for example, if I put Harmony in her hand during the clearing, she wouldn't know what to do with it, and I wouldn't be able to share that. So what we do then is we put a towel over them. We'll put oil on there that maybe up to the neck and above or on the feet, but everything else is dripped just in the energy field around the body and not on their physical body at all. And if you ever want to experiment, it's pretty amazing that you can drip oil like rose when they have their eyes closed. Woo! Hello.
I put it there so we could get a better view on the camera.
Oh.
Just to dull it because the light was stopping the camera from seeing it.
There you
But
go.
it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not going to work. It was like, hello. Well, maybe we can, I don't know.
If the sun sets, we'll get there.
Okay. Good. I just kind of lost where I was at in the story. We had asked her what might have happened and stuff, and I know I was telling you about the towel. If you drip like rose through the energy field on the body, their eyes are closed. They have not smelled it yet, but they'll go because it's such a powerful frequency. So it's kind of fun to play that way. So anyway, we do the clearing, and while during the clearing, we're drawn to use bergamot on her throat. Now, bergamot, or bergamot, if you pronounce the T, which it's a French word, so it's really bergamot, is an oil that's very good for grief. And where we would put it is on the throat. So we put it there. And then Sandra came up with that something had happened at the age of 23. So afterwards, we brought the translator back in and we start questioning her, and she kind of gasps a little bit and bursts out into tears and sobs. And as she regains composure, then she shared with us through the translator that at the age of 23, she was 9 months pregnant, and she woke up and her husband was dead in the bed next to her. He had died during the night of an aneurysm, and he was already cool. So she'd been lying next to her dead husband for a period of time. She, shortly thereafter, went into labor. In the space of 24 hours, she was a wife, a widow, and a mother, and never dealt with the grief. Well, what happened about a year later, the skin condition developed. So although she didn't make the correlation, because she was looking for something that happened 9 years before, this emotion had really locked things in. Well, after this emotional clearing, now understand, we used nothing on the skin condition, absolutely nothing. Her skin started to weep. Think of the words we use. There's no mystery why certain words are used to describe things. Though she started to weep, the skin condition weep. We did nothing to stop the weeping, but we did assist a little bit in the itching, because oftentimes when things weep, there's itching that goes along with it. So we did help her with that, but that was it. She came back in for a second clearing. After this time, about 50% of the skin condition went away. This to her was like astounding. Remember, it'd been 9 years and nothing had helped. And after the third time the skin condition was gone, we never ever did anything for her skin. Nothing that would have been called a physical support for the skin. All of it was just emotional, and all of it was within the energy field rather than on the physical body. Pretty cool. Well, I came back about a month later, because I did not live in Hong Kong, but I was there for a month, and then I came back and I was there for another month. So it was someplace I came fairly regularly. And at this point, she came in, big smile on her face, and started bringing all her family members, including the 10-year-old boy whose father was passed. And she shared with us that she was dating a doctor. She had not gone on not even one date since her husband had passed. So there were huge changes. And of course, like I said, she brought everybody in her family. That was one of the first things. Also, too, little aside, in doing the work with the Chinese, there was an overwhelming grief in the women and overwhelming self-esteem issue in the women. You would see women with multiple PhDs, CEO of companies or whatever, and their husband has a mistress. They put up with this. Not happily, but they put up with this. And when we were doing some of the clearing, I had a vision, which was really interesting because I hadn't thought about it before. But as I was I always work at the feet. That's a position of humility. It makes it a whole lot easier for me to receive what they may need to work at the feet. And I was holding this woman's feet and saw the moms binding these babies' feet. And the babies would be screaming because, of course, the binding broke the bones of the feet. And over and over again, the moms would unbind them and then rebind them tighter than the time before. And the belief was they were not beautiful unless they had these horrible, misshapen, tiny feet. And even though there's no foot binding anymore, other than the ones that are elderly and had it done a long time ago, that energy is still within the society. And the guys, well, we had some of the same situation with the guys in that they were carrying a pattern. We had a guy in one of our classes, and we were doing some of the emotional oils on the ears. And we passed around joy, and he put it on his ears, and his ears just swole up. It was pretty wild. Something else swole up too, but only the girls really noticed that. And we talked to him afterwards because he had such a dramatic reaction. And he was getting ready to get married, and he was terrified that he'd end up like his dad. His dad had been abusive to his mother. It was a horrible situation. He did not want to be even a man if he was going to act like that. And he was terrified of getting married because if they had children, he may act like his dad. Of course, he never would have acted like his dad because he was so in tune with that, not wanting to be that way. But his own body was telling him that was where he was caught up in things. He, by the way, had a couple emotional clearings and is the father of 2 children, and he's an amazing dad, according to the wife. So, but we could have told him he would be too, but he needed to feel that. So sometimes we have the sensation that we understand a pattern in things. The thing with the foot binding and so on was so interesting and so profound that I started really looking at why did we have these results that we could, see it across just one small group. And thank you. And no, I don't, there's a lid. Perfect. Yay. Oh, 3 wise men. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do let us know if you missed out on something, because we want to make sure you're well oiled, and because we're going to do a little meditation here in a minute. Kind of a mini emotional clearing, but we'll have you be in a nice relaxed state. We'll make the statement, and during the meditation, if you can think of something you wish to let go, fabulous. If not, it doesn't matter, because your own inner being will know what you're ready to let go. I find it interesting. It's like layers of an onion. We may know we need to release something that's smack dab in the dead center of that onion. But if we release that before we release some of the outer layers, it would not look good. In fact, it kind of looked like my daughter's Mount Vesuvius example. So it's one reason why we do not assist someone who in a clearing by telling them what they're going to let go. We simply allow for whatever. And it works out extremely well. I'll tell you a quick story about joy and one of the assistants that I had. I had a gal as an assistant that I'd been friends with for many years. And joy was her favorite oil. She fell in love with joy at the very beginning. She used it as a perfume. She wore it every single day. And all of a sudden, she said it smelled like Raid. Well, Raid is an insecticide in the US that stinks. And it smelled like Raid to her. And she said if it wasn't in the middle of the bottle, she would have absolutely known they'd changed the formula. Well, it turns out, as I was questioning, she had just discovered that her husband had filed for divorce. So it smelled like Raid. It took her almost 2 years, about 1.5 years, before joy started smelling like joy again. And just gives you an example of how strong we react to sense. Anywho's. Let's do that little exercise and then give it an opportunity. I'll share some other things about emotional work. I want to make sure that we have enough time to cover everything, which is totally an oxymoron, because when I do in a spiritual emotional class, it's usually all day. I'll do a class first on physical, and then you come in and I'll say, now you want to know what's really going on? And we do an all-day class. But this is kind of an overview, and I want you to have an experience as well. You want nothing on your lap. You want your feet flat on the floor. If you have sunglasses on your head, take them off. I don't know if anybody did. Last night somebody did. And it was so funny when I mentioned that you actually kind of block energy by doing that. They were trying to figure out how they could have sunglasses and work without, but I put it up to hold my hair back and all this sort of stuff. Are we still, did everybody get the oil? Okay, I'll wait then. I'll tell you another story.
Is there any more sacred now?
Probably. Or Idaho balsam fir, or there's valor. Yeah, pass back valor to who didn't get Sacred Mountain. Mm-hmm. I know, valor. Ooh. Valor is a group of oils that were used in the time of the Romans and the Egyptians having challenges with each other. And the soldiers would use that type of blend for strength and courage. And so it's that's one reason why we called it valor. Of course, now everybody, even the ones that got Sacred Mountain, has to have valor. So, Mm-hmm. But it is an awesome oil blend. I was at about 2 hours from my home doing a class in a location called Rye in Colorado. I live in Golden, Colorado, which is just west of Denver. And we had driven 2 hours to do a class in Rye. And I had a guy in the class that was, at best, you would call him a heckler. You know, the kind of person that you talk about something for a while, and about 5 minutes later, he asks a question about what you just covered. Or he asks a question and you answer him, and 2 seconds later, he asks the same question again. And you're just about ready to throttle him. And with the oils, you want to feel warm and friendly. And this guy just was annoying. He was so annoying. And for a lack of a better name, I'm going to call him Fred. I could call him Alan, but I won't. Just for the fun of it, I would have. No, I won't do that. Let's call him Fred. Yeah, right. Well, I don't remember the guy's name, so we're just going to call him Fred. And so he's in this class, and at the end of class, he goes, I have to have a clearing right now. Like, no, I got to drive home. I don't like you. I didn't say that, but I mean, I was thinking it. I don't want to do this. And he goes, but I have to have it, and I have to have one right now. And I finally realized I'm not going anywhere unless this guy has an experience. Fortunately, we put the oils on ourselves and we start thinking warmer thoughts about people. So the oils are on him, the oils are on me. I'm thinking warm thoughts. Do you know if you have to work with somebody that there may be a friction or irritation, see them as a sweet child, whatever age, that you're most attracted to. Did everybody get either Valor or Sacred Mountain? Okay. So if you see, like my favorite is the one that just melts me is when they're first toddling and they say, I love you, where you just like melt. You know, I imagine them like that. I imagine them at that stage where all innocence, the purity of their spirit, it's so easy to send love to somebody that way. So I'm imagining him as this sweet young boy that he was 50 years earlier. And he eager to basically doing this full exercise where I usually visualize cleaning out each of the chakras and then brightening them up so the color is brilliant. And when all that's done, that's usually about the time frame that I believe things are done. And that's just the metaphor I use. You can use whatever you want. And so I'm feeling really good about his clearing, and I'm thinking that he's going to feel really good about his clearing. And afterwards I ask him, and it's like I'm thinking it's going to be, if it was so important, he's going to have something miraculous. And he said, yeah, I felt a little relaxed. So I took a deep breath, blessed him, and drove home. And I go back the next month, and I don't even notice at first that he's not there. I should have noticed. The whole class was going so smooth. Now, what does he want? Huh? Oh. Yeah. He can stay. Oh, well, I would have let him stay. Just like babies. I want dogs and babies in my classes. They have nice energy. Anyway, so I didn't even notice about 3/4 through the class. And at that point, I'm like resisting hurrying the class up because I want to find out about what happened to Fred. It's like just now really intriguing. And afterwards, I asked the gal whose house it was, I said, what happened to Fred? And she goes, I didn't tell you? I'm going, no, you didn't tell me. That's why I'm asking. She goes, well, his mother called. Okay. He didn't tell you? No, he didn't tell me. What's it about his mother calling? She said, well, he had this major argument with his mom and his sister 24 years ago, and they had not spoken since. And 2 weeks after that clearing, his mom called up and said, for the last 2 weeks, I have not been able to get you out of my mind. It's time we mend fences. And he had actually picked up, packed up, and moved 2 states over to where he and his sister, his mom and his sister lived. And they were all living together, and this was in Colorado, and they were in Kansas City. So that was one of the cooler things, and made me realize that we truly are clearing from that DNA level if we visualize it like a radio receiver. So I invite you now, find a comfortable position. You want your spine to be as straight as possible. That's one of the ways to get into a deeper level of mind. I know sometimes we like to slouch, but that's not the best position for meditation. And take a couple of deep breaths, close your eyes. And as you breathe in this beautiful environment, breathe in peace and harmony. And as you breathe out, imagine letting go of all the things that may no longer serve you. Let go of any kind of tension in your body. Let go of stress. Let go of frustration. Take a deep breath. And while exhaling, feel your body relax. Feel yourself sinking into where you're sitting. To help you go to a deeper, healthier level of mind, I'm going to count from 10 to 1. On each descending number, you'll feel going deeper. And you'll enter a deeper, healthier level of mind. 10, 9, deeper and deeper. 8, 7, 6, deeper and deeper. 5, 4, 3, deeper and deeper. 2, 1. You're now at a deeper, healthier level of mind, much deeper than before. At this level of mind, noises will not distract you. In fact, they will help you to go deeper and deeper. Anytime you wish to enter a deeper, healthier level of mind, all you need to do is to take a deep breath. And while exhaling, feel your body relax. Take a deep breath. While exhaling, relax. Anytime you wish to enter a deeper, healthier level of mind, all you have to do is imagine relaxing your eyelids. Relax your eyelids. Feel how relaxed they are. Allow this feeling of relaxation to flow slowly downward, all the way to your toes. It is a wonderful feeling to be deeply relaxed. A very healthy state of being. I'm now going to repeat our affirmation, and as I say the affirmation, repeat it in your mind. Use whatever words you are comfortable with. This is only a suggestion. I lovingly and willingly release all things that no longer serve me in a positive and progressive manner. I release these things to the universe from whence they came to be repolarized, to be a positive and progressive power for me and others. now. Take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the relaxation. Snoring. Snoring. When you're ready, become aware of the chair, the floor, the people in the room, the breeze, the insects, and your physical body. And when you're back in your body and are ready, you may open your eyes. Now, this was a very short exercise. If I was facilitating a full emotional clearing, it takes anywhere from a half hour to an hour. And it depends entirely on the person who is receiving it, because they will let me know how fast to go based on when they put their hand out for the next oil. Before they leave, I make sure that we bring them back into the present. Present time is a great oil for that. And I like to use it, usually right on the breastbone. It smells heavenly. Or you might do a physical grounding where you would have them stand and press against a wall and feel themselves grounded back into their body. We had a massage center in Colorado. It was massage and a gym, and we also had yoga and Zumba, and it was just a fun place. And my daughter was one of the massage therapists there, and she has this technique that she calls frankincense scalp massage. It's heaven. But it also makes you rather on the spacey side. We had, that I witnessed, a person come out with their shirt inside out and backwards, and it was pointed out, and they were totally shocked. And then she told me the other day she just had someone that came out without their shirt. They did put their jacket on, but she came running after him with the shirt. Don't you want this? And they're going, oh, I have my shirt. Oh, I don't. It's a very cool technique, and it's nothing more than really getting a scalp massage with frankincense on their hands, and it feels wonderful. Frankincense is this amazing oil that really helps connect us so that we have a greater awareness. And the Mennonites are known as fancies because the plain only wear black and white, and there's no buttons whatsoever. They use pins. I always thought that could be really dangerous to have your clothes put on with pins only, because they're not doing fancy safety pins. Like, okay. And the guys are much stronger in the relationship, and the women are more timid in general. And so we had this large group, very quiet. Not like, I tell a story and you guys respond and you giggle and you let me know I have a live audience, You don't know that there. They're so silent until we played with the oils. And pretty soon we had this whole room of because laughing is an emotional release as well. And so much of their life, they're very, very serious. I'll tell you another Amish story. I was doing one of the spiritual emotional classes in Pennsylvania, large Amish community there. And I had this couple come in, and as they came in, there was definitely something there that was a little odd. She was kind of limping a little bit and was kind of stone-faced, no reaction whatsoever. And they sat in the front row, and she sat stiff, and he sat stiff. And we were talking about the pineal gland and how the pineal gland is the spiritual physical antenna. In other words, if that particular gland has been damaged through illness or accident, that people lose sight of that they're a spiritual being having a physical experience. And at the first recess after that, and I don't have breaks, I have recesses because we don't want any breaks. Think of the words we use again. Your inner being does not have a sense of humor, so whatever word you use, it understands it exactly that way. So at the first recess afterwards, he comes up to me and he said, do you think, because I was talking about frankincense balancing the pineal gland, he said, do you think that frankincense might help my wife? And I said, I'm not sure. What are you talking about? He said, well, they did surgery on her pituitary. She had a tumor, and they accidentally nicked the pineal gland. I said, I don't know. He says, well, they're ready to excommunicate her. And in the Amish community, if you're excommunicated, you don't see your children anymore. You don't see your husband. That it's done. And she had several children. I don't remember how many now. But ever since the operation, she had no feeling for her children. She had no feeling for her husband. There was no faith. It was like the community believed the devil came in during surgery. And so he was fighting a little bit, but he was already tired too. And we put frankincense on her, and right away we could see it helped a little bit with her walking, but we didn't see anything else right away. And I started the class again, and a little bit later I saw one tear roll down her cheek, and her husband was holding her hand. I cannot tell you what happened afterwards, but for a woman that had no emotions, it was obvious that she could connect to some emotion at that point. It was pretty amazing. We will have maybe about time for 2 to 3 questions, and then we'll have a little mini recess and come back and talk business. And when I say business, I take these oils as being something I want to share with anybody and everybody, and I'll share with you how I built my business and how different things that you can do to share with people. But does anybody have any questions right now on what we did?
And can you repeat the questions?
Yes, I will repeat the questions if they ask me a question. Yes.
Why did you do it in that
Just as the question was, why did my daughter do frankincense scalp massages? Because she was a massage therapist that wanted people to have an experience, and she was aromatherapy massage, and it happened to be the one where people might do that for something special like their birthday. It is a very way cool experience. It's one of those ones that once you have it, you go, okay, when do I have some free time? I really want to have this frankincense scalp massage, and then the rest of the day you just float. It just feels so good. You know, it's just an awesome feeling.
No particular reason.
No particular reason. If somebody was having, let's say, didn't feel very connected, or was worried about things, or somebody in their family was ill, or they were ill, because when we're ill, we feel like we're all alone, even if the room's crowded. And it helps us connect to spirit. There's 62 references in the Bible to frankincense, 188 to essential oils in general. So it's an oil that has a strong spiritual component, and virtually all religions of the world talk about frankincense as being a way to connect. So that's all part of it.
There's a question here.
Okay.
Can we hear about the scalp frankincense scalp massage, as that is when we lost transmission?
Okay, so did we lose it again? Okay, what is wrong with your transmission?
No, what happened, it somehow muted itself, and then when you repeated it, and the minute you finished repeating it, I saw that it muted itself, and then I unmuted, so it's back online now. That was what that noise was.
Ah, okay. Well, frankincense scalp massage is really easy. It's just the massage therapist puts several drops of frankincense in their hands, rub their hands together, and then just massage the scalp. Majority of massage therapists learn a variety of techniques that are good for scalp massage. I personally like, where you stroke up and around and then massage the scalp. Oh, it's just, it feels so good. Sometimes, tugging on the hair, all that is really, really good. And you can use as many drops of oil as you want. Personally, my favorite, if I want a special massage, I will have, we have a gal that comes to our house twice a week when we're home. And I'll have her do a complete massage with frankincense. And then I usually schedule that so afterwards I'm off to a bath and bed, because I don't want to do anything afterwards. I'm just so relaxed. We have very stressful lives in general, and it's one of the ways to really, really relax. Yes.
Cedar would be good too, wouldn't it?
Pardon me?
Cedarwood.
Oh, cedar would be fabulous. The reason that the reason why cedarwood and frankincense are both good for the head and the scalp is they're both high in sesquiterpenes and sesquiterpenol, and that's a natural chemical component that brings oxygen deep within the brain. And oxygen has amazing qualities, and so yes, cedar would be great. And there's a lot of other oils that are high in sesquiterpenes and sesquiterpenols. You had a question as well?
Yeah, so if you were doing a group emotional cleansing, would you encourage them to talk about any feelings, or would you get them to write it down?
Generally, no. I would ask them that night to watch their dreams and write anything down. Generally, in a group setting, they know what's going on. Some of them will have a really profound experience if I have a huge group. He says he wants emotional clearing, Mom. Yeah. Frankincense is an oil that's safe to put on even newborns, so that's an oil I really, really like. Gentle Baby is also amazing. Yeah, I usually, if they have a profound experience, it's not something that probably should be shared in a large group. I will always precede a huge clearing group by telling them that if they have a clearing, it will be very gentle. So it might be a single tear, or they feel like laughing. I know people that believe that it doesn't work unless there's drama. I have never, ever had drama in any of my classes because I do not expect it. And that's all part of it, is that, you know, we get what we expect. If you want to have drama with your emotional clearing, you're going to have drama someplace else, because in my clearings, they're always going to be gentle. And I find they work every bit as well as the ones that are dramatic. In fact, the drama part, because they're often noisy, I think you just reabsorbed what you try to let go. It's a way to resist letting go of something. Well, I want to be better moment to moment, so of course it's fine to me to let it go. Any other questions? Yes.
Would you put a carrier oil over the frankincense?
I wouldn't, because I want it to absorb totally into the scalp, and I don't want my hair greasy.
But when they do the full massage.
Well, I'm going to use a carrier oil for every other part other than the scalp. And I generally use V6. V6 is from Young Living, and it is a wonderful oil blend that is very chemically similar to your own body sebum. So there's no resistance. Your body can absorb it very easily. It's very healthy for your skin. It's just a lovely blend. And the other thing too, it's all cold press. Yes, you had a comment?
It's not as greasy.
Yeah, it's not greasy. A really good oil to use if you need to just grab something is coconut oil. And coconut oil is liquid at definitely this type of temperature, you know. And coconut oil is also very good for the skin, although it does have more of a greasy tendency, but you wouldn't use that much either. So one of the things, if you're using a carrier oil, you want to make sure it's cold pressed. And olive oil, for example, is not a good choice. And the reason why it's not is it's a large molecule. And a large molecule is not absorbed in the skin. So it'll sit on the surface of the skin. That may be fine if you're looking for something that's going to sit on the surface of the skin for an extended period, like castor oil. Years ago, Edgar Casey wrote all kinds of stuff on things to be done with castor oil. Castor oil is a large molecule. It sits on the surface of the skin. So somebody who might be using it for, I don't know, more oxygen around joints or things like that, they might use something like that so that it sits there longer. But for the most part, I find the ones with the smaller molecule work better with the essential oils than the ones with the larger molecule. And why cold press is because we don't want to have any of, and you know what? Alan could talk to you about oils quite a bit. Couldn't you, Alan? Yeah. There was a question in the back.
Not a question, but a suggestion. Grapeseed oil is a real nice carrier oil. It goes really quick into the skin and it doesn't stay on the surface.
Grapeseed oil is, but unfortunately there's a lot of grapeseed oil out there that is not made correctly. So I caution about grapeseed oil unless you know the source. So it's not that it's not it's not that it's a bad oil. There's just too much of it out there that is of an issue. Because I used to recommend that one and then found out there was a lot of other than good. I won't say anything's bad, but definitely other than good grapeseed oil out there. Right. Well, but they're using a good one. Yeah. So it's just, you just really need to know your source. And that's it almost with anything. When we're talking about essential oils, you need to know your source. Gary guarantees from seed to seal. That means that the seed was of the right variety. The plant is grown at the right temperature, right altitude. It's distilled at the right temperature, right pressure. There's a whole complex thing to get what we want. And even with all that, sometimes things are rejected because it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. Just like somebody that makes a cake and it collapses. Everything may have been perfect and yet it still had an issue. You have a couple minutes to, when do you want to start again?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Huh?
Quarter to.
Quarter till.
Enough time for
I know you'll all want to be here for the business side of things because okay. Oh, you have till 10 till. You have 10 minutes.
You got to hear that whistle again.
Okay.